Welcome to I'ma Talk About It. I'm Alicia E., empowerment coach and ancestral healer, and I'm here to teach you how to break generational cycles, self-advocate, and ascend to happiness without the guilt of wanting a better life for yourself. You don't have to choose the same path as those before you. You can choose a better way, your way. Because if we can each heal ourselves today, we can heal the world tomorrow. Together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So, I have a very fun episode today, and I'm really excited to share it with you. It's called Antisocial or Uninspired. And I know that sounds really obvious, but I really wanted to break this down because I experienced something recently within my own healing journey, within my own ascension and expansion, that really allowed me to take a different perspective on the way I see my own life, the way I interact in my own life, and the way I navigate the world. And I wanted to share this with you all. So I want to start by just talking about the idea of being antisocial, right? Like, what does it actually mean? And one would assume that it's not wanting to socialize, not wanting to be around people, not wanting to be a part of society, right? While yes, there is some truth to that, I think that there's also been a lot of negativity placed around what anti-social means. Because when you really start to unpack it, anti-social was kind of also, how should I say, like there to categorize people who didn't fit the norm. So people who were out on their own, forging their own paths, being really selective with their energy. And so it's become a like running joke of, oh yeah, I'm just antisocial, I'm just yada, yada, yada. So we tend to like absorb it into our own lives, but we're not actually unpacking what it means or how we show up and use the word antisocial to navigate the world. So I wanted to bring that up because I myself have in the past also adopted the word antisocial, and it's totally fine if you identify with it. It doesn't really matter. But I think there was a huge part of me that was missing. Like, it wasn't just that I was antisocial. It was that I did want to be social, but I didn't have the know-how or the means or the tools to be able to recognize the community that I wanted to be a part of. And not only that, I was longing for a community of individuals that were like-minded, that I could fully go and express myself. And when you're not expressing yourself, as I talked about before, you tend to put yourself in an extended state of depression and low self-worth and self-sabotage, because your expression is like the number one way to truly begin to love yourself. So if you're constantly having to hide who you are, for instance, like marginalized groups, you begin to then have a lot of trouble feeling happy, being happy, because you can't express who you are in your entirety. And so as I've been going on my own journey, I've been really unpacking the parts of myself that I've put away because of norms in society, like calling myself antisocial when really I am social and want to be social and want to be a part of a community. But it took me a while to figure out that maybe it wasn't that I'm antisocial, it was that my energy wasn't aligned, and I couldn't tap into the parts of myself that would help me manifest or draw whatever I wanted towards me. So then I fit the standard of being antisocial. And so I just want to backpedal and like talk a little bit about how I was raised, because I think this is a really important context for what I'm about to explain about being antisocial or being uninspired. So I grew up in a femme household, all women. My dad was there for a short time, but we can go into that another day. But we had a very diverse household. My mom pretty much allowed us to like discover ourselves but not all the time, obviously. But we were free thinkers. She was constantly saying, you know, like, even though you go to Catholic school, like, you know, you still have the freedoms to do what you want to do, make the choices you want. And so we had a lot of time to be creative and sit within our own energy when we were at home, or like when we were playing. There wasn't a lot of like monitoring us 24/7. Like, there was also a good amount of trust, which you'll have to excuse me right now. Like, my allergies are super bad. So I might sound a little bit like a frog. Let me actually just take a sip of water. So as we were growing up, I, along with my sisters, you know, had the freedom to learn about different music. So I was listening to Etta James, I was listening to Earth, Wind and Fire. I was like messing up her like record player, you know what I mean? But then I was also like, let me discover the Spice Girls, let me like discover Backstreet Boys, let me like get into the rock scene, let me go alternative, let me, you know, do all of these things. And so I was discovering parts of myself that didn't necessarily fit the norms of how people perceived like a young Black female child or teen or young adult. And so there were many times when I was growing up that like I didn't quite fit in most of the groups at school, because there was like, you know, the rock kids, then there were like the alternative kids, and there were like the R&B kids, and then there, you know, like there were like the nerdy kids. And I was like, well, I'm trying to be all all the things. So like I'd rather hang out with all of you and not have to like categorize myself, right? And so as I grew up, I really started to feel disconnected, because there were other groups while I was in college that didn't accept me because I wasn't like Black enough, or like I wasn't alternative enough, or I wasn't like in academia enough. And it started this pattern of feeling really disconnected and feeling alone, and like not fully understanding like, why can't I just be myself and like hang out with you? Like, is it that hard? Like, do we have to categorize everything? And so it was like another stage in my life where I couldn't really figure out how to be in the social scene. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to live my best life and be who I am. And as I grew older, that turned into me categorizing myself as antisocial, because I didn't feel the need or the call to hang out with people who categorize themselves in that way. I felt the need to have my freedom, right? Are you starting to see the trend here? And I will say, like, growing up, it was really hard, and I was frustrated and I was irritated, but I always found time to like come back to myself and do the things that I loved, even if people didn't fully understand them, which allowed me to also be able to love myself. But as an adult, it also gets harder. It gets harder. And again, the categories are there of like, are you going to get married? Are you, you're like cisgendered? Are you blah, blah, blah? And I was like, why do people keep fucking putting labels on me? And then there's all this external pressure to like really fit into the norm, especially when you get older, because then it's like, okay, well, I can't get this job unless I fulfill this role or I look a certain way. So then you start like shifting into like survival mode, and then categorizing yourself as antisocial, or I'm just a homebody because that is what I enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with that, but like you, like, it's almost like people do it and then stop questioning the way they've categorized themselves, and like let that lead their lives rather than leading their own lives. And my journey up until now like has changed so much, and I've evolved, especially in the last couple years. And it turns out that I'm like, you know, I'm the opposite of being antisocial, even though I had accepted that into my life for however many years, right? And what it really came down to was me understanding that it wasn't that I was antisocial, it was that I was actually uninspired. I was uninspired. I was unhappy to like engage with people whose energy couldn't match mine, or whose energy stifled mine, or whose energy was really low. And I decided more recently to kind of dig into that more and sit with my own divine energy, my own flow, and see if I can inspire myself and what would happen. And I have been a part of a community that I absolutely love, and it's full of people who are on the same journey, and we all get along really well. And it's because we are inspiring each other. We are inspiring ourselves and allowing our energy to flow. So you naturally gravitate towards those people and feel comfortable expressing yourself, which then helps you navigate the world with more comfort and more ease because you're allowing the inspiration, aka you're allowing your self expression, you're allowing new ideas to come to you, you're allowing new possibilities, but also you're unbothered by other people. So I know that I've come across, and I've been guilty of this before, like hearing people say like, oh, I just don't fucking like people. And it's like, are you sure about that? Or do you just not like the people who irk your soul? Right? Like, I feel like, because usually that conversation comes out when we start having a conversation. They feel like connected to me because I am empowered, I'm independent. And so then there's like a need to be like, hey, I don't like people either. And it's like, well, I never said I didn't like people. I just only allow certain people into my life. I'm very specific about who walks into my life, who has my energy. And if I don't like it, I remove them, you know? And so I think even just shining a light on, if you've ever said those types of things, like, I just don't like people, I prefer blah, blah, blah. Like, you can have your boundaries, you can have, you know, your space, but I also want to invite you to remember to continue to inspire yourself so that, that choice of having your privacy and having your alone time is because you deeply love yourself and not because you deeply loathe others. Because that's a very different energy. It's very exhausting. It's very depressing. It's very hard to navigate. And I had to sit with that myself of like, do I really loathe people? Am I loathing myself right now? Like, I had to be really unbiased about it and learn how to show up in spaces and be unbothered because at the end of the day, like, I'm not happy just being inside and, you know, not being able to go certain places or talk to certain people just because I couldn't handle the reaction. And yes, you absolutely should probably minimize your exposure to people who cause harm to you. But if you want to get out in the world, you also have to learn how to articulate yourself in a way where you can create that energetic and physical space for yourself, even if the person is in front of you. And that is also going to be very beneficial to you to be able to move unbothered and feel expansive, right? Because even as someone who like lives in their light, who is empowered, who shines their truth, all sorts of people are going to gravitate to you because they love your energy. So there's no there's no way to avoid low vibrational people or people who are needing a little bit more assistance. And a lot of the times they gravitate towards you because they actually probably like your vibe, but they don't know what the fuck to do with it. They're like, I like what you're putting down, but let me just destroy it because I don't understand it. And what I'm actually trying to say is that I need help. So it's like really asking yourself if the life that you are living is what you actually want. Are you antisocial? Or are you actually uninspired? And more recently, even in the community that I'm in, I've been having so much fun inspiring myself and living in this new energy that, you know, I had talked to some people about like how I've been so inspired lately to create that I feel like a water balloon. I was like, I feel like I'm filled with all this energy. I'm just about to pop and I can't shut up about it. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so inspired. Like, let me just go create. And like, all these old memories are coming back about all the art I used to do, the digital stuff I used to do, outside things like working with the land. And I was like, how have I never like remembered these memories back then, like when I really needed them? But it was also like my energy wasn't open enough to remember. My energy was like, let me just preserve any sort of happiness that I might have and just get by. Like, let me just get by because I'm so jaded and the world is so awful that is the only thing that I can take on at this time, which is fine. Like, it happens to literally all of us. But at some point, we have to learn to inspire ourselves and love ourselves and shift out of that energy of I'm going to constantly isolate myself because everything else sucks or everything else is hard. Like, what is the point? You know, because if you are listening to this podcast, which I feel like most of you are probably activated some way in your community, which is why you found your way here and care about healing the world and, you know, helping with generational trauma and forging a new path, forging a new future. You cannot do that unless you learn to inspire yourself, because the greatest activists and the greatest healers are inspired to create change. If you are not feeling inspired, you can't create the change. And so that was like a really hard lesson, even for myself, to learn that, yes, I could take the path of like being by myself and doing all of these things and like just sticking my head in the mud and like getting the work done and grinding it out. Or I could look at, you know, a natural disaster, feel the pain, but also feel inspired to create change in a way that I can elevate everybody else and elevate myself at the same time. Like, you need inspiration. So if you are constantly looking at the world through that lens of negativity and feeling really jaded, understand that you can't progress that way. And I just want to say that because sometimes I feel like people think that you can progress with anger. And yes, you can use it and alchemize it to create change. But imagine being angry about everything all of the time. Like, that's just an energy that you can't maintain. It's impossible to maintain. It's impossible to like continue to carry that with you everywhere you go. It's harder to carry low vibrational energy than it is high vibrational energy, because high vibrational energy also gives you energy and low vibrational does not. It takes your energy. So I invite you all to just be really honest with yourself about how you are showing up in the world and viewing the world. Are you contributing to that space of I'm so jaded, the world is negative? Are you posting things that are not as helpful, or are you trying to inspire people so it unlocks parts of themselves just like it's unlocked parts of you, so we can all be elevated, right? And this isn't like me being like, oh, you shouldn't do this, but it's like, I'm in a real talkie right now. Are you perpetuating, are you fully perpetuating sadness and cynicism? Or are you inspiring change and love? Like, real talk. And I want you to think about like who you're also surrounded with in your circle. Like, what are they talking about? Do they start their conversations with, oh, I don't like this, or I don't like that? Or do they ask you how you're doing, or like say, I'm so happy for you, or like, I love you, or you can do this, right? Like, all of that stuff matters. Like, are you someone who can't get over the shit that happens at work? Like, does it have to follow you home? Does it make you so angry that, you know, you have to go spew onto someone else? Like, real fucking talk, because like, if we're really as a collective gonna be moving forward to where we want to go, to that happiness, to that ascension, to that inspiration, like, you have to put yourself under a motherfucking telescope and really, really look at who you are. Really look at your energy so you can make that shift into that abundance, into that love, into that inspiration, right? Rather than looking at other people and being like, oh, they're so childish, oh, they blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, maybe they're doing something that maybe you just don't understand yet. Right? Like, we have to learn to communicate with each other on an elevated way, right? So again, like, grab your journal, sit with yourself, meditate on it, and be like, am I perpetuating the thing that I actually don't want? Like, am I doing that myself? Or can I not do that myself, right? Because like for me, I don't mess with people who are really stuck in their ways and low vibrational, because you start to feel it really deep, like really, really deep. And it's to the point where like sometimes if someone's complaining so much, I can't even listen to them. Like their voice is like, I can like feel the vibration and oh my God, that is depressing. And like, I feel for you, but it is not up to me to be a part of this space and to fix your problems for you. And that's just personally, right? Like I run a business where I'm there to help people and help them expand, but I do it consciously. And I ask them if they are ready to also let go of their previous behaviors, right? There's a difference. There's a difference. So even think about your business. If you're a coach, like, are you taking on even the people who can't get out of their low vibe life? Or are you asking them to accept a new life and they're okay with that? And those are the clients that you're bringing in, right? Like we have to really be mindful about how we use our energy so we can inspire others in a really ethical way and keep our own inspiration going, keep our flow going so that we can do really beautiful things. And I will say, you know, since I've discovered this within myself, like I've met like I kid you not, the minute that I made this shift, friends, new friends and old friends are just coming out of I don't fucking know where, the woodworks, right? And I was saying how much I was talking. Literally all of them use audio messages to communicate. And they're like, oh my God, I hope you don't mind. I was like, no, like just flow. Like it's totally fine. Like we're good. We're solid, because I know that they mean well and they're just shining so bright. So when you get to that stage of like, I'm going to sit in my inspiration and my love and just be compassionate and kind to everybody, your thoughts just go and the right people show up, the right like opportunities show up into your life. Like I've had so many things pop up in the last month, and I'm going to be traveling and I'm going to be moving and I'm just going with it, and I'm just going with the flow and enjoying life and feeling happy again, feeling reconnected with who I am at my core. So understand that when you operate from your inspiration, you will literally not have to do much to bring in your soul tribe, to bring in the money you want, to bring in the job that you want, to bring in everything that you're desiring, because it will also naturally find you. Like you will be very fucking surprised. So I just wanted to share that with you all. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you will spend some time getting to know yourself, spend some time inspiring yourself, so we can all really elevate each other from a place of pure love and happiness and joy and progress in this world. Because it is so dearly needed. So that is it from me. I just want to say really quickly that if you want to kick off, excuse me, your own healing journey, I invite you to book a Fly With Me session. The description is in the notes. I have spots open. It's 222 for 60 minutes. I also just launched a new beautiful website. If you're looking for information on the Fly With Me session, click the link and you will be taken straight there, my friends. And stay tuned for some lovely episodes coming your way. As I mentioned, I've shifted into my own inspiration, and now I've got a long list of podcasts that I'm going to be recording and dropping for y'all. And thank you again to all of the folks who have subscribed to my podcast and are donating monthly. I really appreciate you. If you haven't done so already, I highly recommend you do it. It also helps me put money back into the business and elevate my message and help the podcast grow. So if you believe in this message and you believe in my company and that we can all progress together, I invite you to subscribe. It's literally like, I think the lowest payment is $3, and $3 is such a small amount. Usually most of us have it and we just spend it really fast. So I invite you to come support. It would mean the world to me, and just thank you to everyone who has supported already. So that is it for me. I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast episode. Thank you so much for showing up for me and showing up for yourself. And that is a wrap, my friends.
Hey, if you're ready to ascend to happiness and live the life you've always wanted, join me in my Empowered Living Facebook group for socially conscious healers, witches, and spirituals, and sign up to get my free Empowered 5 Practices to Ascended Happiness guide. It's helped others expand their consciousness and soar beyond sight, sound, and imagination in just one day. It's the catalyst you need to embrace your magic and change the world. Just click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you in the group next time.